Aloha, Charles.
Your love.
How you?
Oh,
Stop.
your love.
Stop.
Your love.
How you doing, bro? Uh-oh, I don't know what's going on here.
I am doing
Oh,
fine.
my screen is all black. I'm not sure. I had some calls today and some messages that people were not able to get on to the feed last night, and I'm not sure why. So I don't, and I'm hoping that people will get on tonight and are able to get on. It looks like a lot of people coming on, but one was my dad from Seattle. He said he couldn't find it. He couldn't get on. And so I'm hoping that he'll be able to get on tonight. So anyway, Aloha Friday, everybody. Aloha Kiala. Aloha from Hilo. Last night was so fun with DK. Yeah, it was a lot of fun last night. We had a blast. We had a blast. And I think tonight we'll have another blast. Uh, there's Tyson Moises. All right. Awesome. Everybody, thank you again for joining us. And now would be a great time to share this on your pages so we can get the word out. Tonight we have Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, who's going to make her return, and I'm sure she has a lot to talk about. Charlie, I
Yeah.
saw Charlie sent me some notes today about tonight's show, and I might just sit back and relax and watch, man, and just watch the two of you have some fun.
Boy, that's gonna be boring because I might sit back and relax again for the second night in a row.
You know, the timing couldn't be any better than having Tulsi on tonight because of the issues or the questions that I know you have and I have and many people have about what's going on. What is Washington, D.C.? What is Congress doing about Hawaii? Because we heard, over the last few weeks, we've heard a lot of things that Congress was looking at. We saw the Surgeon General come here, so a lot of issues. Hawaii, and it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. Uh,
I,
and,
I
well, I mean, it just doesn't stop.
I think it all started. I gotta be honest with you. Right now, I can't wait till she gets on because we're gonna get right into it. But before that, I like to say that a lot of people are worried about the cult. We talked about it last night, and I saw video today, and I mean, I don't know what to say. It was about, the leader's wife. They call her what, mom, and
Mom,
yeah, and mom, and that mom is Pele the Fire. I,
yeah,
I,
well,
I saw a local Hawaiian couple couple FUs was gonna fly out onto the beach.
well, they're out there right now. There's a good big group of residents out there in Hanalei on the North Shore, actually in Wainiha, and they're protesting the cult from the beach. So they are standing below the high water line, the high water mark, which is where it's a state property, and there's a bunch of them. Right? I think they're still going on. I'm not sure because the video that I was watching, I had to stop watching to get ready for the show. So, but they were out there and yelling and telling them go home, and the one guy was on the lanai just dancing up, man. He was dancing,
Yeah,
and while we make fun, I think people got to understand that these guys are here to relocate, reestablish their cult. So. But then again, I think as the mayor said last night, we cannot be going and causing harm to them. But we also gotta be watching and making sure that they're not violating any laws. And I think that's happening. I can tell you that's happening right now.
well, you just gotta make sure if whatever those protesters doing right now, and if it doesn't get through, they gotta shift gears and start protesting in sign language because maybe they're deaf, and and they gotta do everything in sign language. I
Well,
mean, these guys
I,
are crazy.
yeah. Well, I think they believe that Mama is the God. Um, my dad just texted me that he's on. He said, Charlie laughing mood tonight. Yeah.
Who said that?
My pops all the way from Seattle. He could, like I said, he couldn't get on last night. But he's on tonight, so he's
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, gonna be a good show tonight with Tulsi. And go
I'm
ahead, Mel.
sorry. I apologize if they couldn't get on. I just got that notice right here. Apparently, the cord that leads to my computer, I was stepping on it and it prevented you folks from coming on last night. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So what I did is I took the cord and I put it off to the side because I have Wi-Fi. So I don't know how the cord is going to do anything. But
Charlie, were you in Wainea in the last couple of days?
yes, I was. Yes, I
Okay,
was.
yeah, that explains a lot. That explains a lot. You know, I pray right now that Tulsi comes on and there's no glitch because I don't know what it will be like if we don't have Charlie.
Huh?
I
No.
don't know what it'll be like if we don't get a guest tonight. I mean, we're just gonna laugh the whole hour, man. It's gonna laugh. Hey, by the way, it's what is Uncle Charlie smoking?
It's all Snickers, Snickers and M&Ms. Oh boy! Once I get my fix of Snickers and M&Ms, watch out, watch out. Like I said, it's best you guys get me in a laughing mood because you just don't want to piss me off. Oh boy!
Well,
But but today was a good day. Today was a good day. I had a chance to go with the wife. Went to the west side. It's so nice when you can unwind, pull to the side of the road, and just look at Niihau. I mean, off in the distance. It is, and I'm gonna make a bet with you, Mel, that from Kikaha Beach, I'm gonna swim to Niihau. Um, and you know, you just pray for me that I don't end up in New Zealand, floating close to New Zealand or something. But I'm gonna chance it one day. May not be in this lifetime, but I'm gonna chance it.
yeah, maybe wait till the next one.
Yeah,
Maybe next
yeah.
next lifetime. Yeah,
I'm gonna chance it. Yeah.
sugar high. They said you have a sugar high, man. Your M and M's, your M and M. Tulsi
It's
should be able to get in here on Wi-Fi. Oh yeah, Wi-Fi is good. I'm not sure what happened last night, but
yeah,
whatever. Hopefully we got it fixed, and hopefully it's working, and
yeah.
we'll see. We'll see. But anyway, a lot of stuff going on. Labor Day weekend, guys. We have 3-day weekend for most of us. Enjoy the weekend. Stay safe, of course, guys. Stay
Yes.
safe. And but I'm really interested in hearing Tulsi tonight talk about the $10 million testing fiasco, the what you talked about, what you shared with me today, Charlie, and on Facebook was quite alarming to say the least. And I just cannot wait. Here they're starting reply to Rhonda Mars. It's going to be a piss your pants night laughing with Uncle Charlie.
Okay.
There we go. See what you started?
Yes.
Yeah.
Boy, I just had to cut my beard off today. Oh my goodness. Whatever that you could see. Yeah. Oh, you hear that?
What?
Oh, you heard that beeping sound? I
Nope.
guess that beep 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 sound.
No,
That
I
means
didn't
that
hear.
that means that somebody's popcorn is done. Get it out of the microwave, gang. Once you hit the three beeps, you leave it any longer, you'll get burnt popcorn. Okay. No, but a lot of things it's just surfacing, and I think again, there's this question about the spending and everything that's happening with all the leave of absences. Now it's coming about that these leave of absences are paid leave of absences, and it's just crazy. I do want to say that our friends over at the OCCC, they're getting fitted with PPEs finally. But again, there's still some question about the N95s that they're using. Some say it doesn't fit right, and I told them if I were you, I wouldn't sign off. If they're making you guys sign off on something, don't absolve them from any responsibility. They got to give you equipment that works. Okay, so just don't go signing off on anything yet. And but the thing is, an effort is being made to get them their equipment, which is good. I'm glad to hear that.
You know, Sooner or later, the question's got to be asked. I mean, if you look at the last few days or
Yeah,
last week, I guess, when you see all the I think the right word to use is snafu. When you see uh, all what has been exposed with the Department of Health, with the Department of Education, with the OCCC, with DPS, and at the height of the crisis, when right now you got the surges, you got more people dying now than earlier on, and anyway, in the height of the crisis, everything is falling apart. Everything is falling apart. You have a governor that has publicly stated that he has not lost confidence in the Department of Health and the Department of Education and Department of Public Safety, and yet it's so evident that all three departments were mismanaged. I mean, it's so evident, it's obvious, even to supporters of Governor Ige. But at some point, do you think the legislature will start having a discussion about impeachment? That this virus is going to be around for a while. We simply cannot afford
Hmm.
to constantly or to continue uh, going through this with trial and error. I mean, we cannot. I mean, people are dying at a high rate, and there's no acceptance or no accountability by the administration. And I mean, at some point,
Well,
do you think the legislature will even have that discussion or even talk about it? I
I
haven't heard
think
anything
so. I think so. But before that, I want to wish you, my brother, happy birthday today.
today.
Yes, today is your birthday. That's what
Oh,
everybody thinks.
I know it's not my birthday. Tomorrow is my birthday.
Oh,
Um,
well, I
yeah,
think, yeah, we're gonna tell you happy birthday today in case I forget tomorrow.
yeah,
Yeah, but
that I
yeah,
put
happy
this up.
birthday,
Yeah,
happy birthday tomorrow, brother. Happy birthday tomorrow.
but thank you, thank you, thank you. And
Well,
that
let me kind of reply to your thing. I think just from hearing the rumblings that's going on, I think a discussion may come up about an impeachment. Who knows? But though, somebody asked me, "Hey, Uncle Charlie," I says, "Well, put it this way: I'm gonna do it. And you know me, Uncle Charlie. I'm gonna give you the best possible scenario I can give you. You have Governor Ige. He's the team captain for the water polo team, and all of his department heads around him. That's part of his water polo team. None of them can swim. Okay, would you even try take on another water polo team, knowing that your water polo team cannot swim? Because you guys are going to probably spend most of your time underwater, and that's where we're at right now. Something has to be something has to happen really fast so it can gain the confidence of the people. Something is better than nothing because right now we have a sinking ship that is taking on water real fast. And I don't know why they want to stay in the middle of the ocean for try to fix that ship, but I would rather try move a little bit closer to shore because if you cannot plug up that hole fast enough, at least the bugger not going to sink too deep. We're going to be closer to shore where we can safely disembark and nobody going to get hurt. I think that's what needs to be done.
well, I know I just saw a comment that the impeachment process would take longer than the term, and it might be. I don't know. I don't believe Hawaii ever moved to impeach a governor. But my point is that the legislature cannot just sit back and pretend that we don't have a problem in leadership in this state. They cannot. And the fact that it may take longer than the term, so be it. You do what you can and you expedite it if you need to. But at some point, that discussion has to be made because we cannot continue on this track. And anyway, Dave Harker, thank you. No apologies necessary. He started the happy birthday melting, and that's all cool, man. I appreciate the birthday wishes. I really do. And it is tomorrow, but I thank you all for the happy birthday wishes. But right now, we got Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard back in the hot seat.
There
Um,
she is. There she is.
It is
back in
pretty hot, and I can't wait for the trade winds to come back.
Oh my God, it is. It has been brutally hot. How you doing, ma'am?
I've been busy, but I'm good. Thank you. Happy
Well,
birthday in advance.
God, please let me wake up tomorrow morning, man. It'll be what a waste if I don't make it to my birthday. But anyway, we'll try to keep it calm and
What a
mellow. Look at
waste. Should I
my
take
wife.
it back?
I always thought it was bad luck when you celebrate the birthday before your birthday. But anyway,
Okay.
what the
Got it.
heck, Charlie, you're
Yeah.
gonna have to talk with me right through midnight, bro. You have to
Huh?
stay up. You have to talk with me after the show. You have to stay on the phone with me for the rest of the night till midnight.
Brother,
Don't go.
you don't want to engage with Uncle Insomnia right here because I'll take you all the way to 6 o'clock tomorrow morning.
I take that back. Anyway, I know this was last minute notice,
Yeah.
Tulsi, because I think the timing was just right of all the developments. I think for people that don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you were the first one that stepped up publicly and called for the removal of Bruce Anderson and Sarah Park.
Yep.
And right after you did that, everybody jumped on the bandwagon. I mean, it was just typical though.
It
Uh,
took a minute, and this is something that I've seen happen before where people are hesitant to kind of, I don't know, step out front, even when they know something isn't right. And the bottom line is that we've gotten to a place now where both Dr. Anderson and Dr. Park are no longer in the Department of Health building, which is a positive thing. And it's given me some cautious optimism that the interim director of Department of Health, Dr. Shar, and Dr. Roberson hopefully can get back to work, that we can get back on track, and those who are trying to do their jobs will not be blocked or impeded in any way.
we all hope. We all hope. I mean, we really got what we asked for. Now they're gone, and I think you heard me kind of talking about what we were talking about before you came in. Is that now the governor's got to do his job, and the governor's got to appoint people that are qualified and able to
Yeah.
to do it, and he needs to make sure it happens because we're in a difficult time right now statewide, and then there's a whole bunch of issues. And again, Charlie put a list together because we don't have an opportunity to talk to our congresswoman, often. So, and a lot of the issues that are affecting us here in Hawaii is obviously connected to Washington D.C. with you folks in Congress. So, I was
Yeah.
hoping to pick your brain tonight and try to get updates on as many of these issues as possible. But why don't you want to give us an overview? It's fine, and just let us know what the heck is
Sure.
going on.
Look, it is again, I think it's, if people are looking for a glimmer of hope in everything that we're dealing with right now, in the heartbreak of seeing every single day more of our brothers and sisters dying because of COVID, I think the glimmer of hope does come in the fact that, because look, you guys, myself, the last time I was on here, you were saying, hey, what do? We feel like we're at wit's end, like nothing is working. Well, we keep the public pressure up long enough, we get to this point where not only Dr. Anderson and Dr. Park, but also for Charlie, Dr. Mr. Espinda, Nolan Espinda, also has left the building. And we've got to we can't, let up off the gas pedal. Even in this glimmer of hope and optimism, cautious optimism, we got to continue to hold their feet to the fire, including and especially Governor Ige, really because he's the catalyst that has the ability to completely get our government to completely spring into action, to do what is necessary to help the people in our state who are really, really struggling during this time. And I'll point to, in addition to the public health crisis, point to, the unemployment problem. Over 10,000 people, I think 12 or 13,000 is the latest number of people who have filed for and have still not received a single unemployment check, and people who are worried about, literally how they're going to take care of tomorrow. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and the only way we get there by hook or crook is by continuing to mount this public pressure on the governor and on his cabinet. There's a lot more to do.
You kind of touched the tip of the iceberg when you brought up the unemployment, because we see a lot of questions that are arising. But I wanted to get your read on this. You know, they put in an interim person after that Mr. Murakami, or for some reason he's an, you know, for some reason this administration has in their their playbook, the EGA playbook 101, that anytime you run into trouble, ask for a leave of absence. Everybody seems to go on a leave of absence, and you know, we've been in, like, as a police officer, when you go on a leave of absence because there's like either an administrative type of investigation done, or say you was exposed to something very horrific and you need to take, you know, those kind of things. But you know, when your commander doesn't, you know, fumbles with the ball and then something happens, he doesn't take a leave of absence. You know, he just goes to, you know, better himself and better the unit that's supporting your leader there. But when it comes to the unemployment, it seems rather strange. And again, I wanted to ask you what your thought was. You're bringing this person, right?
Yeah.
Now, if people are getting hard time getting into unemployment, now they're combining PUA and unemployment together, what they talked about, and they're going with a virtual call center with one number. So if you had couple hundreds to maybe even thousands of people calling in, I would assume that thing is just gonna says, "Hello, thank you for calling. Please hold." You're gonna get one of those things.
So I actually think I think it makes sense to combine PUA and the state unemployment, because a lot of people are getting both. And I think it would only frustrate people more to say, oh, you got to call state unemployment and wait in line over here. Then you got to call federal PUA, wait in line over there. People are going to go crazier than they already are. So to me, it makes sense to streamline that and give people one phone number that can be routed out to what I hope, if what they're saying is true, is a virtual call center manned. It should be manned with hundreds of people, because they will get over 10,000 calls on day one. I guarantee it. And they've got to be prepared for that. And the way I think this works is, you know, when I call United because I've got to rebook my flight, it's one same 800 number for everybody. But if they get 100 people calling in all at the same time, they've got a call center that can, you know, pick up those calls and manage that high volume. So conceptually, it makes sense. I hope that they're able to execute that concept properly.
Okay, perfect.
Well, you know, conceptually, we had enough. We had 400 to 500 contact tracers stand by. And you know, I think, Tulsi, one of the biggest problems this state is facing, and I kind of brought it up months and months ago, was just the trust from the people. You know, people just don't trust them anymore, and every day that goes by, and they're not getting a check, or they're not getting a phone answered, or they're not getting an email responded to, the frustration and the anger just grows and grows and grows, and it's hard. People are so skeptical, and I don't blame them, because it's, you know, we've dropped the ball so many times. You know, one of the things was, you know, we applied late to that federal unemployment assistance that came out, and we finally did. I'm not sure, you know, it was brought up. I know it was brought up probably a month earlier. Someone had posted the chart of all the states that had already applied and had been accepted. Some were pending, but Hawaii had not even applied.
Exactly.
That was an opportunity lost. And yes, he finally did submit the application. And yes, you know, we should be getting some aid. But again, it's always, we're always behind the eight ball. I think in every step of the way, and the people are frankly tired already, and we need to see some movement in a positive direction, and that's, I think, the frustration that many of us have.
I completely agree. I share that frustration, and you know, hate to bring politics into this, but this is something that I saw and experienced through Ige's first term as governor. I think he's a very nice man. I respect his intention. I think he does care for the people of Hawaii, but as a leader, he is incapable. He's incapable of being the commander-in-chief for our state and the CEO for our state. And we saw that evident through the crises that happened under his, you know, watch during his first term. The flooding on Kauai, the you know, lava issues on the Big Island, and there was a you know, the missile alert And you see through these different examples during a time of crisis is when a leader is tested. And we know for sure, can you lead or not? And it was because of those examples that when he was running for re-election, I endorsed Colleen Hanabusa. She and I don't agree on everything, but I knew and recognized, because I know her well enough, that she would be a better leader than Ige has been. And unfortunately, we're continuing to see that trend of failed leadership through this incredibly historic crisis that we're going through now.
What do you
How much?
think?
Oh, go ahead, Charlie. Go ahead.
You know, based on what you just said, it takes someone very, very special to be able to handle, keep all hands on deck, keep a steady wheel, get that ship going in the right direction. But
It's a really tough job.
what do you think is causing him really maybe not to ask for help? Is it? I don't know him as when he was in a Senate,
Yeah.
but there's something about it that, and what's scary about this whole thing, and the reason why I'm asking, is that every time right now we're having so many things happen in this crucial time, in this short period window. We've got the pandemic, but there's all these like mini hot fires happening, and it's rapid firing, and the confidence level, like Mel said, it's. I never thought in a million years I would feel kind of shaky inside, because we're depending on our leaders,
Yeah.
and they lead us down the road what we need to do. But I don't want to be led into a rabbit hole that I can't get my way back out, and
Yeah.
that's the way I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
So what do you think makes him tick this way?
I don't know. And I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, so I don't want to make any assumptions. I can just tell you from my perspective, what I see and what I've experienced is a lot of indecisiveness. I've seen other leaders in other situations in the military and in politics of leaders who are literally paralyzed by indecisiveness, that in that moment of crisis where you got to make a decision, they freeze up. And they're afraid to make the call for fear of, well, what happens if it goes wrong? What happens if this happens? You can war game out every single scenario and every single hypothetical situation and find yourself completely paralyzed by overthinking and indecisiveness. And that's something that I have seen and experienced with Governor Ige, and why so often in these times of crisis, he is several days late to the party, and the consequences, people end up suffering needlessly as a result. I think that he seems to be really out of touch with reality, and I don't know how that's possible. I don't know if he's getting out and talking to anybody other than his cabinet. But if you go and I don't know, it really boggles my mind to see him giving these press conferences saying, hey, everybody, we got this. I have full confidence in Dr. Anderson, full confidence in Dr. Park. I never asked them to be fired. Everything is great. Everything's going to be better. All you got to do is wear your mask all the time, even at home with your family, and that's going to help the situation. Like, I don't see how this person is existing in the same world that we are living in.
Mm.
That's the confusing part. Indecision is a decision. It's a decision. It is in and of itself, and that's where I think I don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist either or a psychologist, but I know I've worked around people like that who they're so consumed and so worried and concerned about what might happen if they make a decision that they just don't, and that's a decision to not make a decision. And this virus doesn't work that way. It doesn't. You cannot respond to this virus like that. You cannot wait and hope that tomorrow is going to be better. You cannot, like the hurricane, just batten down the hatches and let's wait till the storm to pass and then we'll go pick up the pieces. This COVID storm is not going to just pass.
We're in the eye of it right now.
Yes, and the thing is, there's no way of predicting whether it's going to pass. With a real hurricane, science can tell you, well, it's based on the winds and blah blah blah, it'll pass. This one we just don't know, and I think you use the word paralyzed. I think the paralysis is obvious, and I think that's causing a lot of the problems.
Yeah, yep.
It's frustrating. wanted to let's start. I know Charlie has a list. I just wanted to touch basis on the last time you were on. You had basically requested the inquiry into the state and the $50 million. That's the $50 million question right now.
Yes.
Is what's the status of that inquiry, and has Congress received any response from the governor?
There was no response sent to Congress in the timeline that was given. I believe that he was given 10 days to respond to, I think it was 4 or 5 pretty simple, direct questions, kind of like, how many contact tracers do you have? How much money has been spent on contact tracing? How much money has been spent on testing? Those kinds of things. Pretty simple, direct questions. There was no response received within that period, the 10-day period or so. I think a few days late, Congresswoman Eschus, the chair of the committee responsible for public health, did receive a letter that basically said, we need more time. And the way I read that, because they forwarded us the letter, the way I read that was, yeah, you know what, we're going to blow you off just like we blew off the state auditor, because oversight is not important to this EGA administration, and neither is transparency. So, you know, I know Congresswoman Eschus is not so happy about this, and we've also escalated it to the overall chairman of the committee that she's a member of, and they're digging deeper into this, and we'll be talking more about what next step options
are. Congresswoman, well, Tulsi.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm over here trying not to stutter. But the question I have is, when you have someone in a position, because our state relies on federal funding, right?
Yeah.
And you have somebody in a position to say, hey, you know, I'm asking you a direct question about the federal funding. What's the likelihood of repercussions coming from this, that future funding may be questioned? I know, you know, I'm pretty sure that they're going to give us all the bells and whistles, or give, you know, Congress all the bells and whistles why we need the money. But with this kind of behavior, you know, what does Congress rely on? You know, it's like, say, hey, we give you this money. If we run into a problem, we're going to ask you a question, and all you got to do is comply and answer. Well, like you said, they're just blowing it off.
So there's 2 components to this. One is Congress, and the other is the administration. So the federal departments that actually end up writing the checks and sending those checks out to these different areas. In Congress, obviously, Hawaii's congressional delegation will always advocate for Hawaii and why Hawaii needs funding in all these different areas. But it does make it a harder argument when the response is, hey, well, we sent you guys a bunch of money and we don't know how you spent it or if it was spent at all. So there is some accountability there but it's not like there's a benchmarks or you know, levers or any kind of formal thing like that. It's really more based on relationships and perception. But on the federal agency side, this is where I think there's potential for more trouble. Case in point, there was a report that the Department of Treasury's Office of Inspector General put out. I think it was, I don't know, I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, but it was an assessment of every single state, how much COVID-related funding they had received so far and how much had actually been spent. And I don't have it in front of me right now, but according to this OIG report, it said Hawaii had received something like $1.3 billion with a B of overall COVID funding and had spent 12% of it.
Wow.
Hawaii's not alone. I'll say that. There are some other states that had similar reports of low spending amounts. Others had spent a lot of the money that they had been allocated. And I think everyone in every one of these states should be kind of screaming that question at a time when we have businesses failing, people unemployed, people looking to get tested, people needing health care coverage. We need contact tracers, the whole response. they should be emptying those coffers and dumping everything we got at this problem right now, because we are in that crisis right now. There is no, well, we're going to save this for the next rainy day whenever that happens.
Yeah, I think when I heard the governor he did his little veto messages of what he was vetoing, and he talked about after spending what he wanted to spend, and if there was any leftover money, it would go to the unemployment, help fund unemployment. And I'm thinking, you got people right now that haven't had a check in months. You
Yep.
got people having no idea where they're going to get money to pay their bills, and you are sitting there telling the legislature and the media that, well, if there's leftover, well, that's the part I struggle with, because he wants to call it whatever, rainy day fund or whatever, and it's storming right now, right? The hurricane is here, people are drowning, and this guy is willing to wait and watch more people suffer until he determines if in fact we have leftover money. We'll run it to the unemployment. It just makes no sense.
No.
And I don't know how if I was in the legislature, I'd be going ballistic already. And they're, aside from the Senate COVID committee, I mean, I know I talked to legislators and senators, and everyone's upset.
Yeah.
Everyone is upset, and I think that this is the time where politics got to be taken out of this, and we got to deal with the real issues, and they got to deal with the needs that are here today.
And I'll just mention here real quick, because we're talking about federal funds. Right after Ige got elected, I went in and met him in his office as kind of a, hey, let's figure out how we can best work together to leverage as much federal funds as possible for Hawaii. It's a great meeting. It's a great conversation. And he said this is one of his top priorities, because in past administrations, not expending federal funds had been a problem. He had hired someone specifically to do this job, to make sure that all federal funds were being spent and maximized. There was nothing left over. But unfortunately now, what are we in, year 6 or so of his administration? And this has, pre-COVID, this continues to be a problem where we have federal funds that are not being spent here in the state that have been allocated specifically for Hawaii. And as you know, they expire at the end of the fiscal year. Many of them do. So this is a bigger issue.
Yeah, I talked about this a few nights ago. I can't remember what show it was on, but I remember telling a story about Councilmember Kagawa and myself going to Congress and lobbying for money. And I think you were even there. You may have even given a scolding too, like the rest of them did. But
never. I would never do that.
No, I just, but we were trying to get some fund for Kauai for our traffic congestion.
Yeah.
And I can't remember which congressperson or I can't remember who it was, said, do you know how much money Hawaii has in federal transportation dollars that they haven't spent yet? And I didn't know. I thought we were broke. I just thought, I assumed we didn't have money. I said, I don't know.
Yeah.
They said, you folks have $600 million in unexpended transportation funds. So there is no way we're going to be able to convince Congress to give more.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that, because I was embarrassed, number one, and I was pissed off, number two, because the money was there. And I have no idea what it is now. But this wasn't that long ago. I'd say within the last 10 years,
Yep.
probably 8 years ago, or maybe less. But anyway, just so the public understands that's, Congress gives you the money, and we don't spend it, then it's tough to get more.
Yeah, it is.
And he's just following that same lead. Like, what the hell? Is there a race? Is there a contest in all the governors who can keep the most money unspent? Is that? I mean, that's kind of stupid.
I think so. You said it, not me.
Well, I'm not in office anymore. Hey, Charlie, you had a list of stuff, man. I know there was something.
Well, since we're on this question about, it seems like more of a question of courtesy. When somebody asks you to, provide something, I think you should respond. So the question I had, it dealt with the recent testing utilizing the H3 tunnel.
Yeah.
And initial testing was done on Tuesday, and a response was given that, few hours prior to testing, So they went ahead and testing, but the response from the feds were no denial of that permit or whatever you want to call it. And they said, well, for the greater good, we're going to do it Thursday anyway, and they're going to keep on doing it. A lot of questions came back on our feeds as to, what's the ramification? These guys, the way I looked at it, I wasn't so much worried about that. I was worried about, you got young people coming up and it says, hey, Uncle Charlie, you're teaching us to respect rules, laws. I mean, we're trying to get people to comply with social distancing and wearing a mask. And here you got someone from the DOT saying, yeah, they told us you're not supposed to, but you know what? I'll deal with it later and just go straight ahead. What's your take on that doing what they're not supposed to be doing?
So my husband and I went early Tuesday morning. We were probably like, I don't know, the 50th car in line to go in and get tested. I had just come back from my Army mission in Alaska, so I got tested right before I went there. I wanted to get tested right when I came back. And I also wanted to see how the operation was going. And there was a big difference between the fiasco that they had the week prior. I think it was on the Windward side where they had 2,000 people who came in to get tested, but they never labeled the freaking vial. So they were not able to get their results. Their setup was outstanding in the H3 tunnels. They had many different stations for the admin portion to make sure the labeling was correct. They had National Guard soldiers manning all of those stations, social distancing, face shields, masks, the whole works was all applied. And then you go to the next station where they have, I believe they were nurses or healthcare professionals, again, who were all suited up in the medical suit, all the protective everything, who handed you the test. And then until you roll up the window, they watch through the windshield, you do the test yourself, and then you drop it in the bucket and then you go. So we were in and out probably in about an hour, hour and a half. So operationally, to me, it makes sense given the long line of cars and traffic for this limited period of time. And we have alternate routes. I live on the Windward side. We have alternate routes to get into town or the west side if we need them. I was in the process of getting my test when my staff texted me the notice from the Federal Highway Administration saying basically cease and desist. I agree with you that we need to follow the rules and regulations that are put out. In this situation, I think that the Federal Highway Administration, they don't know what they're talking about, and they're not familiar with the landscape over here, and that there is an alternate route so that shutting down the H3 is not causing any transportation problems. And for them to make those threats when this is being used to fulfill a U.S. Surgeon General mission of 60,000 surge tests in the midst of a pandemic doesn't make sense. So this is Tulsi talking, and I think the whole Hawaii delegation is kind of on the same page. We've been in touch with them since. We're pushing back hard against those threats, and if they keep pushing, we'll take this battle public, and I dare them to threaten withholding funds because we're making sure that people get tested for COVID. That's a fight they're going to lose. So I'm not too concerned. We're going to keep at it. We're not kind of just letting this go, but this is a situation where they're out of touch with the reality of what we're dealing with here with this pandemic. And we're going to continue to work hard to get them to stand down.
Okay.
So you're pretty optimistic that there'll be no fiscal ramifications after the dust settles?
I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure, but I will tell you that the Hawaii delegation is united. We're a united front on this, and we're already pushing hard and working with state DOT we're all on the same page on this. And again, if they are stubborn, then we will take this fight public and they will lose.
Now,
Fair enough.
yeah. So I guess the H3 has been designated for a testing on a very, very large scale.
Yeah.
That's what
it's one of the number of sites on the island. Yeah.
Okay. But it seems to be the site of preference. I mean, given the fact you can catch it on both ways.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, another thing that came up was the fact that on one of the Star Advertiser, on the very last portion of the article itself, it talked about um, the money spent just to conduct a test. But I'm not clear if the 10 million was just for a day of testing. Did you hear anything about that? And do you know anything about it?
I don't know the numbers offhand for this specific surge testing that's going on right now. I do know that the funding came through the U.S. Surgeon General's office and FEMA, I believe. I may be wrong on the FEMA part, but they provided funding for the tests, for the labs to get the results to the tests, and the contract that was put out to hire all the healthcare professionals to conduct those tests. I don't know if they're reimbursing the National Guard for use of National Guard troops or not, but this is a separate bucket of money specifically for this mission than the 50 plus million that already came to Department of Health for contact tracing and testing.
Yeah, it related to the CARES Act coronavirus emergency funds, and
Yeah.
I think the incident commander, the fire department, said that it was used for the 300 personnel that was there, which was police department and all of that. Okay.
Okay, that makes sense.
So we should be okay. I read the breakdown. Representative Val Okimoto put down the breakdown of that 10 million for that one day, and it seemed kind of like a lot. The cost per test was very 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 high, and I'm assuming that that's allowable. I guess you know I know it happened quickly, and the state didn't have much time to put some thought and put out whatever bids, but it just seemed very excessive, the amount per test
Yeah.
for this. And then we had the whole issue with the mislabeling or non-labeling, and it was just frustrating. And again, I mean, I don't think I've used the word frustrating so many times in my life, except in the last 3 or 4 months.
Yep. Yeah, it's just, again, we talk about public trust, and you have people, you continue to have situations like this where, the ball is fumbled, to say the least, and it just further erodes that public trust that we got anybody here in charge who knows what they're doing.
Right.
And the sad part is, though, like, some people say, well, this is a new situation. It's a new virus. It's a new pandemic. We're having to figure this out as we go. We don't. We don't. Other places have already figured this out. We can learn from their lessons learned. The roadmap is already there. We just got to follow it. And it's not easy. You got to make some tough calls, but you just got to follow it. That's it.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
Well, go ahead, Mel.
no, go ahead.
Well, since we're on that, again, we're getting back to testing, and it seems kind of difficult because we're trying to. I know Honolulu has had a very very hard time, and that is people are just not following the rules. But when stuff like this happen, I think you can see my point that when stuff like this happen, people are saying, "Hey, you guys ain't doing it, so it's a monkey see, monkey do, right?"
Yeah.
So you're not doing it, so why should I? And it just creates this whole snowball effect of just non-compliance. And I think someone had made mention in one of the reports that with the standard news, and Mel and I have always said this, like we get you on for a full hour, so it's not a usual snippet that we get to see Tulsi for maybe like 5 minutes. So while it's complete, it seems incomplete. If I make sense. This one, you can go from A to Z, and everyone will get the picture. Like your like understanding on why we should use H3, because up until this point, we just had very very small snippets that led us to look at the unfavorable sides instead of the favorable. But you kind of shared it with us. So, giving that with our contact tracers, We know that the Surgeon General admitted that they had the conference that we need between 4 and 500. Well, as of last Wednesday, the Department of Health spokesperson, Ms. Okubo, said that they have 212 statewide. So now we're going back into this problem because I did a backtrack of numbers just for the positive cases taken from Saturday up until yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Just those numbers alone, and even if they made contact with 3 people each, you're talking about 4,000 contacts that needs to be made.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it almost seems like an insurmountable task. I can see all the high numbers before. We can't do nothing about it. So cut a fire break and let it go. But even moving forward, me personally, I just think they're behind the 8 ball again.
They are, and I'm surprised that the Surgeon General had such a low estimate of how many contact tracers we need, because on the CDC website, they have a whole page with recommended resources for public health officials at the state level. So people like the director of the Department of Health. And in that list of resources, they have a link there that says, hey, click on this link, which will help you plan for and determine how many contact tracers you need for your state. And so you can go in there and you can punch in any state to see, based on population and current infection rate, which ours right now, I think, is at about a 10 or 11% infection rate. And that will determine how many people you should have doing contact tracing. And the last time I checked, that number was at about 1,300 for the state. 1,300 contact tracers. It may have gone up since then. I'm not too sure, but this is a problem that we're seeing at the federal level. There is no federal strategy for this virus. We're seeing different numbers being reported from the CDC. This thing that came out recently, a couple of weeks ago, where the CDC said, oh, you know what, actually, you don't have to get tested if you don't have symptoms. But later on, they're like, but we know that over 40% of people are asymptomatic and infectious, but you still don't have to get tested. Just, maybe stay home. But if you do get tested, make sure you stay home until you get the results. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all. And then, of course, it came out a few days. I got all fired up about that one. And then, of course, it comes out a few days later that there were some political pressures at play, and the CDC was pressured to put that out because they're worried about not having enough tests for everybody. Why don't you just say that? Why don't you just say, we don't have enough tests for everybody. We still think everybody who wants to get tested should get tested, and we're working on making more tests. That's an answer I can live with. But anyway, so I have the same problem as you, Charlie, and my team and we are also tracking and trying to figure out, okay, how many people are actually picking up the phone and doing that contact tracing every day? And the last number we got was 212, which you said that was the number you got last week. That was the number we got yesterday.
It was on Wednesday.
Right.
Yep.
And we're saying next week they should have 215. But I also heard, exactly. But I also heard yesterday that they're including administrative staff in that total number of contact tracing staff. So, okay, if they're administrative staff, that means they're not picking up the phone and making calls. They may be performing a necessary function, but break that out separately. We need to know how many people are making calls and what time frame they're reaching all of those different contacts. Because like you said, ideally each person has 3 cases per day, right? 3 cases per day. If they're lucky, one of those cases is, a 3-person household. The second case might be somebody with a 20-person household who lives in Kalihi Valley. The third person might be someone who is from a nursing home, and you've got all the other residents and the staff and everybody else there. And so that workload is tremendous. And in order for contact tracing to work, they need to reach those contacts within a 24-hour period. And every one of those contacts needs to be tested with a rapid results test that'll enable us to be able to contain this. So for us here on Oahu, this shutdown right now, as painful as it is, given how out of control it's been here, this is actually really essential, in my opinion, right now, because this will enable us, okay, we don't have people spreading the virus and no one's keeping track of it. But this shutdown only works if you have the mass testing in place, which they're doing the surge testing, and you have the contact tracing to be able to identify, okay, here's where these hot spots are. We've got to contain them before we kind of start to go into the reopening phases, so that if there are new hotspots, we can identify them and kind of squash them quickly.
Well, just as a quick follow-up, and then I'll give it to Mel. The thing that I'm still concerned about is with the surge testing at the tunnels, as an example. With the amount that was tested and the amount that came back positive was so low that the float rate, which is the positivity rate, now is down in so low numbers. But yet, what I'm still having a hard time trying to grasp onto this, but yet if you go into the communities where the numbers were so high,
Yeah.
so you see this divide. You have the surge testing that's producing low numbers, but yet out in the communities where the ugly snake is rearing its head is providing all high numbers.
Yeah. And
So
that's the problem with how they're executing this surge testing is, in my opinion, the right approach would have been twofold. Number one, you have surge testing sites where anyone and everyone who wants to get tested can get tested. And then you take your quick reaction team and you go into these communities that you know are likely problematic, and you bring the testing to them so that you're able to get a more accurate read on what's actually going on, and so that this testing rate is more representative of the different communities across the island. Because, I mean, I don't know, we could have people out in Waianae maybe, or people out on the North Shore who are not going in and getting tested in as high a rate as somebody out on the windward side, for example. So, it's kind of statistics 101, right? In order for your data to mean anything, you've got to make sure that your sample size is really representative of the population. And I don't know that that's the case. And I see some of the comments here, people are raising the issue as well, that some people are getting emails saying, oh, your test was negative or your test was positive, and you never even went and got tested. Yeah. So again, question mark on the accuracy of the numbers that we're getting through this, and how that's even possible.
Well, they did a real quick analysis a couple of nights ago about the numbers, trying to find a positivity rate.
Yeah.
If you got a positivity rate of only one day below 5, and the rest of the days were up in the 8, 9, and double digits for 2 days, even if you throw the high and low out, you'll be left with something around 8 or 9, 7 or 8 in that area,
which is still pretty significant.
But the Department of Health said we have a rate that's floating at about 4.6, even though you had 1 day below 4.
Yeah.
So mathematically, it's almost impossible what they said.
Yeah. Par for the course, unfortunately.
I think people got to understand the difference, right? I mean, the surge is almost like surveillance testing. It's not. It's not like contact tracing testing where you go in after a bunch of suspected carriers. The surge is for anyone. So naturally, that should not be used to determine your infection rate, the infectious rate. I mean, that's a separate, again, surveillance. You see how your community as a whole is responding with this virus, versus trying to find this virus so we can isolate and stop it from spreading. And obviously, if you're doing a contact tracing testing, and first level 1, level 2 contacts, then obviously you're going to get a much higher infectious rate or positivity rate. And when you put them all together, you end up. I thought I saw somebody's post. I think it was Yamani. What's her name? The one that does her Twitter.
Lynn Kawano.
Lynn Kawano. I think her positivity rate today was very low. But again, they're counting everything, and you cannot do that. That's the people deserve to be told, like you said, Tulsi, told the truth. If you cannot do it, if you messed up, if you just tell the truth and don't go create these false stories that people get, then people start taking this not as serious because the false sense of security. That's got to stop.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. If I could mention real quick, I see Keala Wolf had a question here saying her 97-year-old mom or grandma, she wants to get her tested, but she cannot sit in a car for 2 hours. I don't know which island you're on, Keala, but they do have, she's asking if home tests are available. And there are home tests. A lot of the people who I just went to Alaska with, they're from all different parts of the country, and a lot of them ordered home tests. So I know that they're available. You might want to check in and see, what your insurance coverage is like. A lot of them paid out of pocket, and it was around $100, I think, for the test. And so they came in and they took the test at home, and then they sent it back in. I think they got the results within about 72 hours. So I know those tests are available.
Cal, I see you're from the Big Island. I'll reach out to you. I'll go get that. I know we have organizations that are doing that on Kauai. We do have Malamapono, and we have other organizations throughout the state. So I'll go get that for you. Give me out there. It's a long weekend.
Yeah.
But, we'll get that info out to you.
For Hawaii Island, Dr. Miskovich is going to be doing a whole round of testing there because of Hawaii Island's surge in positive cases. Mm-hmm. So, his policy is for the drive-up testing. Again, I don't know if this is going to work for your mom, but, insurance, no insurance, he'll give you a test with no copay. So there's options.
Okay.
We'll follow up on that. Thanks for asking that question.
Well, here's a question that came up from one of our viewers earlier before tonight. They said to ask you, with regards to the Pentagon's shutdown of Stars and Stripes.
Yeah. Look, I think it's what they're doing is highly unusual. I can tell you, while I was deployed to Iraq in 2005, that was pretty much the only way I got news. And I read that paper every single day. I think it performs a really valuable service to our servicemen and women who are deployed in other parts of the world. We didn't have very good internet connectivity where we were, so you can't be like, oh, just go on your phone and look up whatever, Apple News, and get your news that way. It's not really an option for a lot of folks who may be deployed to really remote locations. And so I think that I don't agree with the action that the administration is taking. And they're circumventing the process because we in Congress actually appropriate the funding for that. We authorize the funding for that. And the administration really, I don't know if they have the power to do it. He's exercising his power to tell them to stop production. But this is a program that Congress has authorized and appropriated monies for. And so we're looking at options to be able to make sure that congressional intent is executed.
Okay.
Are they using funding as the reason why? Charlie just...
They are.
Really?
$12 million, 12 or 15, maybe. And then, of course, there were articles that compared that amount of money to, I think, the $150 million expense for President Trump's golf trips during his term of office. So, it's a lot of money no matter what way you look at it. But when you look at it within that context, it's not as much money given the value I think that troops get from their service.
I would agree. I told Charlie when he told me that I was hoping was fake news. I was hoping that someone but no, it's real. And like yourself on deployments, that paper, everyone gets the paper. And you rely on that paper, and it's I don't know why maybe it was so long ago, but I just saw the news on that in that publication or in that newspaper as being factual and unbiased. It was just the news. It was just the news, and everything was going on in the military. It was awesome.
Right, and people might think, oh, that's just military propaganda because it's coming out of the Pentagon or authorized by the Pentagon, but it wasn't. There's articles in there that were critical of decisions that were made by military leaders, and it was a lot of news, what's happening back home, news, what's happening in the world, but really news that's relevant, changes in policy and things like that. That's really relevant to service members and their families, which is why I think it is so valuable.
Wow, that's bizarre. 12 million. Yeah. 12 million. We have to go start
just say first day of testing was about to come out, right?
Yeah,
And we're
yeah.
talking about 12 million for the whole year.
We may have to start a campaign to stop that, man. That's crazy.
Yeah,
That is
it's big.
that,
And
you know.
I know a lot of people feel the same way that we do, Democrats and Republicans. This is not Lindsey Graham, Senator Lindsey Graham is speaking out against this. And, you know, he's a pretty solid Trump supporter, but even he, as a retired Air Force colonel who's been deployed, he understands how important Stars and Stripes is to our troops.
Okay.
Oh man, that kind of irritates me. But anyway, it takes a lot to get me irritated, you know.
I think the threshold just keeps growing, you know what I mean? And that's not a good thing, man.
You know, every day Charlie and I we talk throughout the day, but when we fire this thing up and we come on before we go live, we you know, it's like, gosh, man, it's just like deja vu. It's
Yeah.
every day is deja vu. This is like a hemorrhoid that just does not go away, you know.
Yep.
And I don't know how
Thanks
the hell
for,
to
thanks
stop
for
it.
that visual image, Mel.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the only thing that I can think about. Is like, wow. So I know we wrap coming up to the hour. What's going to happen next, Tulsi? I mean, you know, what we talked. I know you heard the tail end of our little discussion about the legislature talking about, you know, impeaching. I know it's a very, very serious word, but when you look back at the missile crisis and all
Yep.
of that, and you come up and you know, it'd be one thing, I think, if Governor Ige recognized that he was in over his head, and he basically, I know I heard one, I think it was a California governor a week ago saying, you know, this thing sprung upon us, this virus sprung, we weren't prepared, and gosh, man, we goofed. You know, I can accept that and move forward and get better. But in this case, like you said, every press conference, we're doing well. We're doing extremely well. I'm not sure what he's listening to. I really don't.
Yeah.
But maybe we shouldn't talk about impeachment. That's for me and Charlie. But
Well,
what,
no,
what
I'm happy to. I mean, look, I think that it was a big deal that the Speaker of the House told the media the other day how he was getting call after call after call asking for impeachment to occur, and that, as Scott Psyche said, that word has never come up before in all the years he's been in office, and he's been in office for a really long time. So I think that says something about, you know, I think the people of Hawaii don't take using that word lightly, given the fact that it's not something that's really ever been put on the table before. And for those who are frustrated and wondering, hey, how can we make a change here if Governor Ige continues to maintain the status quo? That is the only route available to make that change.
You know, I think you know, just by seeing a lot of these questions that's popping up, and you see it as well, Tulsi, it comes to a point that I think many of us, I mean, I have to say the majority of us, we got our backs pushed against the wall, and you know, we're trying our darndest to, you know, stay together, unite, and fight this thing. But now it's getting to a point that you know, we're getting weak links, and you don't blame them because they haven't had a unemployment check in how many months. Your business has suffered, and you know, it doesn't. Some of the logic behind letting one open but not the other just doesn't make sense. So now you got all of this stuff swirling around, and it just makes it really, really hard on how do you band together to fight this thing. Because one of the questions I had was, you know, with regards to, and I said this several nights ago, I know Dr. Libby Charp when I was at the ME's office, and she was head of emergency services at the time.
Okay.
And she, you know, it was very apparent she knew what she was doing. And I enjoyed working with her, you know, getting funding, especially when they had some of the funding to get new equipment, like what HPD got. She was real instrumental in that. But now she's at the Department of Health. What is your estimation about them getting cranked up in gear and going for it? Because we don't have too much time because what's knocking on our door right now is the flu season.
Yes.
So we've got uh, we got the paakai waiting to be put in the wound if we don't clean up this wound right away. So
Yeah.
what's your take? How do you feel? Do you think the health department will be able to get up and running pretty quick, or?
Your view on this is probably more credible than mine because I don't know that I've ever met her,
Hmm.
and if I have, it's just been in passing. So I have heard from a number of people who've said exactly the thing that you have, that in their experience of working with her in different capacities, she's done an outstanding job and she's got the leadership qualities necessary to do the job as director of the Department of Health. So yeah, I mean, just based on a number of different people who've come from different circles who
Yes.
have high level of confidence in her, that is really encouraging to me, that she's got what it takes to be able to kind of whip that operation into shape and start to pull the levers quickly to make things happen.
Okay. Well,
Well,
that's an honest
you know,
answer, man.
today, Dr. Roberson returned to work today, and that is very telling
Yes.
about where Dr. Roberson felt the problem was.
Yeah.
You don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure out that once Dr. Park left, Dr. Roberson came right back to work. Um, and that tells me that Dr. Roberson has the confidence in the personnel now enough to come back to work after she stood up and said, "Hey, this place is a mess, and I'm not coming back to work until you get it together." So for me, what I see when I heard that was, I think we're going to be okay. I think we'll be in a much better place going forward. Roberson obviously has confidence in the new leadership enough that she would come back work and not wait until she
Yeah.
felt it was okay. She believes it's okay. She went back to work, so I got to give her a lot of credit. And what she did was brave and courageous. Tulsi, in politics and government,
To
you
take the
get that
steps like that.
whistleblower protection, but at the end of the day, reality, you get blackballed, and these people, Lana and all of these people that stood up during this crisis to get change done,
Yeah.
kudos to them.
Really, truly, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of bravery. I thought the same thing. I really, I haven't met Dr. Roberson, but for her to take that stand and not just kind of lie down and let things be was really, really incredible. And I think she understands the urgency and the seriousness of the situation and felt that that was the only option to be able to get the movement necessary. I see a lot of comments from people complaining about people like Dr. Park being put on paid leave. Um, Look, I agree that it is a wrong message to send, that those who are in positions of serious responsibility, and in my opinion, who have been grossly negligent, not just lazy or making mistakes, but grossly negligent and failing to fulfill that responsibility, don't get to walk away with a big bucket of taxpayer dollars and float off into the sunset. There has to be some measure of accountability there, uh, and making them, yeah, be held to account for their actions, because people are dying, literally dying as a result.
Hmm.
You know,
Well,
the thing, what we don't know is, were there any attempts? Were there, see me? I look at it's like in the military. I think, Tulsina, that your commander, the guy running or the gal running the show, running the deployment, whatever. If they are allowing people to um, do stupid things and not holding them accountable, if these people are doing what they're doing and it's okay by the supervisor, right? And
Yeah,
not in a malicious way, just in an incompetent way. We don't have the competence of leadership. We're in the administration. So if they're doing their job as they are being told to do, then how do you punish them? Now, if they were authorized or empowered to make the decisions, and they chose to make those types of decisions, which ended up being resulting in people getting sick and dying. And absolutely.
Yeah.
And the only way we're gonna find out is either the legislature or Congress will do an investigation into it. And I think it's more in line with the state doing it with the legislature.
Yes.
I'm hoping that the state will do a joint committee investigation on COVID-19, and because what has occurred is wrong, and these people need to be held accountable.
Yes.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But if we rely on press conferences and press releases, then no one is holding the governor and his cabinet accountable, and then the people will end up footing the bill for all this incompetence and negligence and I agree, gross negligence, and then this will just be forgotten, and they'll move on, and and that legislature, I think, needs to really step it up.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Somebody named Dave is saying, "Hey, Tulsi, yes, accountability. So get up and do something about it." I'm doing my best, Dave. I am not the governor, so I am limited in the actions that I can take. But the state legislature has a really powerful, I think, a central role in that accountability, in holding the governor accountable and these departments in two ways: through the power of the purse strings, as well as we talked about, the legislature is the only body that has the ability to decide if a governor is not doing his job and should be removed from office. You bring up a good point, though, Mel, is there is a distinction and difference between somebody who says who is following orders from their higher ups, even if those orders are not fulfilling the extent of what needs to be done. And so I don't hold these, case investigators responsible. They're working really hard every day, and they're limited in what they can do based on their chain of command. It is the direct leadership. It is the governor. It is the director of health, Bruce Anderson. It is Dr. Sarah Park, who are the decision makers, and who I have heard from credible sources over months, including this recent situation with Dr. Roberson, that either Dr. Sarah Park or Bruce Anderson were actively blocking the hiring of more contact tracers. What I had heard was the thing that led Dr. Roberson to say, "Hey, I'm out until you guys get this figured out," was she was trying to hire, I think, 50 some contact tracers, and Dr. Park stepped in and said, "No, you can only hire 20. What? Why? And supposedly Dr. Roberson wasn't even supposed to be reporting to her. She was supposed to be reporting directly to the Deputy Director of Health. So this is what we're talking about. That's just one example of many of what gross negligence looks like, and how that leads to more people getting sick and more people dying.
Well, I can only hope that the legislature, and we had Les Condo on, was it last night? Was Les on last night? No, we had the mayor on. The night before last, we had Les Condo, and he shared with us the difficulties he was having just getting them to respond.
Yeah.
My suggestion was, it's time you do an audit. You do an audit. You get the legislature to authorize. You do an audit, and you subpoena them, and then you enforce the subpoenas. And at the same time, the legislature, and just so that people understand the difference, between the legislative branch and the administrative branch, the legislative Congress or the legislature cannot direct the administration to do anything, but they have the power of investigations and the power of budgeting. So there's many ways that and I'm hoping that our legislature will move forward, either via an audit, an investigative audit, and in any audit, once you come across an indication that there may have been criminal wrongdoing, then it gets turned over to either to the AG or the FBI or whoever.
Right.
But it needs to happen.
That's fully within the realm of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, absolutely. Based on what you just said about the 50 and the 20.
Yep.
Yeah. Investigation.
And that's the thing, though, Mel, is it was the state legislature that asked the state auditor to go in and look into what's happening at the Department of Health. That came from the legislature. to get that audit started, and the Department of Health totally blew them off. They just blew them off and didn't answer their questions. So we're already at a point of escalation beyond, hey, let's get an audit and look at what's going on here, because they're not complying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's scary about this is it seems like we have people in power who are so arrogant that they think they're not accountable to anybody. And that's dangerous anywhere, at any level, when you're in a position in government. And I see this at the federal level, both with elected officials as well as people who are appointed or bureaucrats. Once you get to that place, that's a really dangerous place to be.
Yeah, especially when you're dealing with the invisible enemy. When you're dealing with an enemy that you have no idea what's going to happen next. And, you know, you got people behind this that are just incompetent. You got those that are, and, you know, I feel for those that are afraid to stand up. They're deadly afraid, you know, seriously afraid of their safety or their family's safety, because, you know, it's what happens in corruption. And we got people like Lana, we got people like Jennifer, you got people like Dr. Roberson, you got heroes.
That's right.
That stood up, and I, you know, I just don't know how we can thank them enough. I mean, you look at what happened after these, what, 3? Maybe I'm thinking just 3. Charlie, was there more than that? 3?
No, 3 right now.
And change was made. Change was made, and it's just difficult to do. And you would think that the governor would get it by now.
Yeah,
and he just hasn't.
On those heroes, and they are heroes, man, to stand up and to speak out, putting your own, you know, person, reputation, potentially livelihood on the line to stand out and speak the truth. All I would ask is the best way that we all as a community can stand up for them and say thank you is to make sure that we stand with them when they come under attack. I'm just saying.
Well, you know, Tulsi, I'll tell you one thing. You remember the last time you were on, you said just keep on pushing the message, just keep on pushing the message. And at that time, Anderson, Espinda, as well as Park was not under fire, but we kept that message.
Right.
We're able to get that break with Lana Hughes, bring her on. And from there, it was an avalanche. And we've been at it ever since. You know, some people they criticize. They said, you know, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? And I said, you know what? Put it this way. If I felt we were doing it for all the wrong reasons and there was false information behind it, then you know what? Take us to court. Mm-hmm. You know, if we feel like we've defamed anyone's character, take us to court. We're just echoing what everybody else is echoing. But we're putting it into context because we're just investigating just a little bit better. I'm not saying we're 1,000%, but I think we're about at 150% right now at our investigation. So, you know, it's getting there. There are still some things, and I think you touched on it, because what I tried to allude to earlier is that, you know, if the governor makes that final decision at his level, and, you know, it almost seems sometimes like I don't want to say it's a hindrance, but, you know, it's almost as if asking, gee, Governor, what more will it take to shake some trees here? I mean, it's pretty obvious. And so, you know, I'm glad when you come on and you can explain about the tunnel, because I was real heavy on that. But then for the only reason is I didn't want any kind of negative pushback from the feds.
Sure.
But if you say the delegation is all for it, then okay, fine. I'm pretty comfortable with that. At least, you know, there's some help on that end. But you know, there's a lot of areas that we can improve on. But like you said, if people are not standing together, it's a big ball of it's a big mess.
And you're right to ask questions. You know, you're right to think critically, like, hey, is this really a good idea? Why are they doing this when this is what's at stake? I think it's more of that critical thinking and those questions that we have to be asking, given how many failures we've already seen. You know, here on Oahu, we've seen it at the county level. We're seeing it at the state level. And I think we all should be asking questions first. And they put out something like, again, in my opinion, for you to have restaurants and movie theaters open, but parks and beaches closed, that makes no sense to me at all. Use your common sense. And so it's those kinds of things that we as a community, we should be pushing back on. And if they have a good explanation, makes sense, like, all right, makes sense. If not, this is what our democracy is about. It is about voting at the ballot box, but it's about remaining engaged and making sure what we're doing. We're putting the pressure on, and we're making sure they know, hey, we're watching, and we will speak out.
Well said. Well said. We went over time again.
I feel like somebody needs to tell a joke, man, because we've been talking about some pretty heavy stuff.
Oh, well, I don't know. You know, sometimes you gotta be careful what you ask for, Tulsi. You gotta be careful. The joke is not the problem; it's the laughing afterwards. That
Got it.
but I'm sure Charlie has one hanging right there. One joke. I gotta read this comment. You know, this thing broadcasts over to Twitch. I don't know what the hell Twitch is, but apparently I signed up for a Twitch account. I don't even know what it is, but
it's what all the cool kids use these days, Mel. You're in good company.
I think it's for gaming. People, they do their gaming.
Yeah.
Now I gotta find it because I don't know if you guys can see the comments, but did you see the comment?
No.
Anyway, it was about Pop-Tarts.
I saw that. I was like, whoa, what came out of the field?
This guy, I don't know, it says, you got any Pop-Tarts? I'm here to tell you how good God's favorite food, the Pop-Tart, is when soaked in water before consumption.
I can't say I've tried that one.
No.
I didn't realize it was God's favorite food.
I told you about when we get close to Area 51, what I'm going to do.
Uh-oh.
No, we want to keep them as a viewer. We want to keep whoever that is. Oh, no. Come on, Charlie, you got a good joke. Politician joke.
I don't have any good jokes tonight, but I will say one thing. I am so glad that Tulsi came on tonight. You know, it was because
me too. I'm glad you texted me yesterday, Mel, and I love hanging out with you guys.
Well, I mean, it's always fun. You know, it's so cool because we see you on national TV, we see you on local TV, and then you stay on our little, I don't know what the hell you even call this thing. What is this, like a Facebook Live? And
Mel and Charlie show.
Yeah, it's the same background. It's the same windows. This is like, I feel so damn important when you have a congressperson.
No, Mel, remember what I said? We see her on TV, we go, she's too prim and proper. Wait till we get her on.
Because they only give you like 3 minutes to talk, man. Like, I got to go in before. I'm like, okay, what can I fit into 3 minutes and make a point that people will hopefully remember? And it's much more to come and talk to you guys.
A lot of people don't know how that thing is set up outside, at the Capitol, at Congress, where you get the CNN, you get all the networks they set up in their little pocket with all the lights and the makeup people, and they just wait like stalkers.
They do.
And they gotta snag you guys out. And when I sit and I watch this thing going on, I'm like, wow, these poor things. And then of course you get those that they have an appointment, they're gonna go and they get them all set up and get them all perfect, and they gotta sit them right against the railing, so you get. It's just bizarre. But when you watch them on TV, you just see them as if it was just and it's amazing.
And then when we get you on here, we go to Tulsi, right here, just right there.
Exactly. Sometimes it's like, usually they hang out right around the Capitol because that's where everybody goes to vote, right? So they try to catch people when we're coming in or out of votes. And there's some days, man, like if I didn't brush my hair, or if I'm not ready to go talk to reporters, thankfully I have all these like tunnels and backtracks that I can go through if I don't want to be, have a camera shoved in my face.
Yeah, and you one of the popular ones too. So they want to get that one coming from Hawaii over there, and yeah, it's pretty cool. It's an experience. It's an experience.
Can I tell you how beautiful Alaska was real quick before we go?
Yeah, of course.
Yes. I've been there once before, but only for a day. I was helping a guy who was running for U.S. Senate up there. But we went to a really remote part of Alaska on the Aleutian Islands and came in on a tiny little prop plane, had like 6 seats in the plane, even smaller than the planes we catch to Lanai. And I felt like I was coming into a colder version of Hawaii. had like beautiful cliffs, these bay, the water. We ended up seeing a ton of whales out there, and we got to work with the local Native Alaskan tribe in the local community. And it was just, you know, they call it something else, but it was so much aloha there. And I can't wait to bring my husband back and actually be able to go and visit. It was really, really beautiful.
Oh, that's
Was it cold?
The temperature said it was like 50-ish degrees.
Oh, not too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad, but the sun, the sun was out pretty much the whole week we were there. So I always had a jacket because, you know, I'm from here, but it was really nice.
Were you in a place or at a time where the sun stayed out the whole time?
It was out. The sun set about 10:30 at night.
Oh, so you did have some darkness.
Yeah, we did, and it rose at about 7 o'clock the next morning. But yeah, tail end of summer, so things were, I don't know. They're like, oh, the day's already getting shorter, and it was odd. It was different.
A beautiful country.
Yeah, it is. We do have a beautiful country.
Yeah.
They're all looking forward. They're all asking, like, hey, when is this quarantine going to be lifted? Because all the Alaskans want to come down here when it gets cold up there.
Yes, true.
How's COVID over there? Is it a problem in Alaska?
It's quite good compared to Hawaii. I think the daily count for the state while we were there was like around 50 for the whole state. And a lot of the smaller villages have not been impacted at all, and they're being super strict. I was told some of these villages, they literally have armed guards for anybody who tries to come in their village. They're like, nope. They don't care if you're coming from another part of Alaska or from out of state. They're not allowing people into their villages because they don't trust. And a lot of the native, I learned this while I was there, a lot of the Native Alaskans tribes were completely wiped out with the Spanish flu. Like 75% of some communities were killed because of the Spanish flu. So the indigenous people there, the native tribes there, they ain't playing around, and they're not risking the possibility that this virus will take more people's lives there.
Wow.
Oh,
yeah.
Unbelievable.
Well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Love to go to Alaska again. Nice place.
Did you guys do the show on the weekend too, or Monday through Friday?
Every night except Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah, every night except Sunday.
All right.
So, yeah. Tomorrow we actually have Russell Izumo. He was Kauai's first COVID patient that had to be medevac to Oahu, and we almost lost Russell.
Yeah.
And he was there for several weeks. And I spoke to him a little bit. He's still having a rough time.
Yeah.
You know, the progress is slow, and he's very limited. So, yeah, we have him on tomorrow night, and he's going to share with the people that still think this is minor,
yeah,
and that it's fake.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll get a dose of Russell tomorrow.
Good.
And they'll see what it looks like. We had Sarah on from Oahu.
Okay.
It was very emotional. It was an emotional show when you hear how someone has to call their 11-year-old and their parents to say goodbye before they put them in a coma. How can you say that this is? I don't want to get into that right now because I'm going to get pissed off again. But I'm thinking,
yeah,
the Alaska. What do you guys call it? What's that thing in Alaska? The colors, the rays, the
Aurora Borealis.
The lights.
There you go.
Yeah.
One day to see
We
that.
didn't get to see that. I'd love to see that one day.
Well, Charles, any closing thoughts, Charles, for our Congresswoman?
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you on, Tulsi. Thank you so much. You've clarified a lot of things for me personally.
Good.
Understanding about the tunnel. I mean, I don't know. I was so drawn to the tunnel. You know, being born and raised on Oahu, going through that tunnel, I thought it was like the ninth wonder of the world because it's, you know, the Halava side, but when you get to the Kaneohe side, it's beautiful.
Every time I drive that drive, every time I come home and get off the plane, and every time it's like I can hear the angels singing.
Yep, there, you know, it's beautiful on that side. So I like to thank you very much.
Thank
To the
you.
viewers out there, I hope you folks had a glimpse. And again, what we try to do is we try to feature our guests for an entire hour, and not this snippets that you'll see on the major news channels where they let them say something and they try to cram it into 3 minutes and people get the misunderstanding. We give them the whole time to explain everything. So tonight was that time given out to you. And I'm going to do something special. I'm going to tell all our viewers, just wind your clock, make believe it's 12:01. And here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mel. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Oh, you guys are awesome. You guys, I see all the happy birthdays coming through. Thank you guys so much. And Tulsi, thank you for being on again tonight, and to agree to come on with the late notice. That's what people need. People just need the leaders, decision makers, to be able to communicate with and ask questions and get answers, and it just makes people feel a whole lot better and more comfortable. And that's what we try to do here at our show. And we cannot do it without people like you, Tulsi. And keep up the good work.
Yes.
Thank your husband for us for letting for sharing you with us for hour and a half.
Friday night on a Friday night. Friday night.
Is it Friday?
It is
Yes,
Friday.
it
I
is.
know it's hard
Yeah,
to
but
tell.
Honolulu locked down anyway. She cannot go no place. She gotta stay home.
Only thing I know about Friday night is I got to put the trash out for tomorrow morning.
Hey, real quick, Wednesday night is ours. I forgot to put them out.
Uh-oh.
The Lord works in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
He wakes me up at 4:15 in the morning with a hellacious pee. I gotta take a pee, and then I remember, damn, the rubbish. I was able to put them out in time. That's what happens when you get old. That's
Nice.
when you get old.
Nice.
Anyway, Tulsi, thanks
Heading
again.
back to
We-
DC on
yeah. Oh,
when am
go
I
ahead.
back? I'm going back next weekend. We have committee hearings all next week. We can participate virtually, and then we've got votes on the 14th. I'm hoping that at some point over that 2-week period that we're there, we'll have an update on another round of COVID-related assistance, a finally negotiated bill. So I'll keep you posted, Mel. And I don't know if you guys would make an exception, but I'd love to come back and talk to you and give you the update when there is one. But we might have to pre-record it and then you can live stream it later, because I'm sorry, but I cannot do it at 1:00 in the morning East Coast time. So
Okay.
we can figure that out. Maybe I can just send you a little clip or something. I don't know.
Can you hook them up with Air Force One, and Charlie and I can just come up and do it live from Washington D.C.?
Not in my current job, my friend.
Anyway, we will work around your schedule anytime, Tulsi.
Awesome.
We can do it at any time. And in fact, I was going to ask if there's any updates on the investigation.
Yes.
Obviously, we would just love to have you make an announcement on our show. That'll be solid.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night and have a blessed day tomorrow, Mel. Every
I will.
day we have life is a good day.
Absolutely, another lap around the sun.
There you go.
Everybody, God bless. We love you guys. Tomorrow night, 7:00. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you.
All right, guys.